Hello and welcome to this special report on the impact of violent extremism during the recent COVID lockdowns. I'm Barbara Serra. This special report is brought to you by the Radicalisation Awareness Network, and we're going to be hearing from two practitioner voices today on this pressing subject. My first guest is Frank Sikking, a digital youth trainer from the Netherlands. We're going to discuss how we can better engage young people online to help them avoid going down the wrong path. First, let's hear from Frank Sikking about his concerns on the subject.
Hello, I'm Frank Sikking from the Netherlands. I'm a specialist in online youth work and the influence of social media on youngsters, teenagers, etc. During my time as a youth worker, I went to many schools and gave lessons about all kinds of things regarding to social media. The meaning of real friends, cyberbullying, sexting, grooming, digital footprint, polarization, etc. Organizations got to be aware of that, and they got to facilitate their people, teach them how to do the online work, invest in online youth work.
We can discuss it with Frank in more detail. He joins us live now. Frank, great to see you. I mean, you were mentioning how there were always issues with social media, of course, that affected young people disproportionately, but how it's changed with the COVID lockdowns. You mentioned organizations should know more, be more aware. Tell us more about what you would tell them, what advice you'd give them.
What we've seen, hi Barbara, first. What we've seen is that the COVID pandemic forced us to work more and more online, right? So organizations must teach their people how to do the online work. And it doesn't mean only give them a good working telephone, but also give them the equipment like laptops and programs to make videos, to get in contact with the youngsters, to make good content for those social media.
But when it comes to actually engaging with young people and teaching them, and not just young people, but teaching them to differentiate between different sources on the web and what could be radicalizing material, what do you think needs to be done there?
We need to get all the children in their digital awareness, right? We've created a 5-year follow-up in social media lessons, but we've got to teach them also how the artificial intelligence works and how the algorithms work.
I mean, the algorithms, in fairness, are incredibly sophisticated. There's plenty of adults that don't know how to differentiate. And then you end up being in almost like an echo chamber where you're hearing the same thing amplified again and again. So how have you found working with young people that tend to be quite literate when it comes to the internet anyway? Are you finding that they are becoming more aware, or that actually spending so much more time online is just making it worse?
Now, for them being more and more online, they're getting more and more into their own bubble, right? Into their own bubble. So what we got to do, and I think youth workers can perfectly do that, they can go to the schools and do lessons about all kinds of things, and especially also how the internet works and how the social media platforms work.
So that would be a good way, I suppose, of preventing young people kind of falling down this rabbit hole in a way. But once they already are, so once a young person already is in a lot of the chat rooms and already is part of that algorithm, how do you pull them out?
Yeah, that's a good question. What we do is we connect with the youngsters, right? We connect with them through the social media. So we see what they post, what their friends are like. But it's also for them to keep in touch with the youth worker, right? So it's not only sending, but it's, in other words, say you get to be there where the youngsters are. You get to be in the neighborhood where they live and where they walk. But if you get to be there where the youngsters are in these COVID pandemic, it's more enough a good way to be in this area, in the neighborhood with the most youngsters, which are the social platforms. So it gives them an opportunity to also, that if they're in trouble or they're feeling very sad or they're into trouble, they can connect through those social media by sending you a DM.
And may I ask, do you go on those social media platforms as yourself in your role as a digital youth trainer, or do you think that sometimes some of these young people will in a way ignore you or not do things in front of you because they know your role, or do you sometimes try to pretend to be someone else as well?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good question. Indeed, online you get to act like offline. So don't pretend you're something else. You get to be online just yourself as offline. So to make sure the online work is not instead of, it's an extra way.
Frank Sicking, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, now let's look at the proliferation of conspiracy theories or narratives. Ask any civil society group working in challenging communities, and they will tell you that the COVID lockdown has resulted in an explosion of conspiracy narratives. But what threats do these narratives on social media pose in terms of violent extremism and terrorism? Well, Bjorn van Zink is going to share his insight in just a moment. First, though, let's watch his film.
I am Bjorn van Zink. I'm an associate professor from the University of Utrecht. I'm researching societal polarization in education. My research is about how do teachers teach about controversial topics in classrooms. Topics such as terrorism, colonialism, fake news, and since COVID-19 also conspiracy theories. And currently in Utrecht we see lots of these kind of stickers. It's all about conspiracy theories. One of the big challenges in debunking conspiracy theories is not to reinforce them. So by addressing them, you even get other students to get more interested in the theory. And you carefully have to think how to address that issue.
It's a fascinating subject, and Bjorn joins us live now. So Bjorn, first of all, let's try to define what we mean by conspiracy theories and narratives. At what point does perhaps, with validly questioning a dominant narrative, at what point does that become a conspiracy theory?
Well, there's a lot of discussion about what conceptually is a conspiracy theory. But in general, we believe that when people start to believe that there is some kind of secret organization influencing our life without being aware of it. But the theory of conspiracy theory is also used to describe many other things, but I think that in essence is the conceptualization that is mostly used. And also the claim that is made by the conspiracy theorists has to be judged as false by leading experts such as scientists or universities.
Okay, so how has all of this subject and how have conspiracy theories proliferated during the COVID lockdown?
Well, I think they have become more prominent. On the one hand, also because I think that also governments are insecure how to handle the COVID-19 pandemic, and also because how science works. So science is not right or wrong, but there are also sometimes scientists can disagree, of course, with each other, and also in relation to COVID-19. They sometimes can disagree just because they're doing all this kind of research. And that also makes people very insecure, I think. And then a conspiracy theory gives a clear answer because this is the problem and this is the solution, instead of being insecure and seeing all those different perspectives and different viewpoints. So it provides a clear answer. It's a secret organization, for example, and that's causing this pandemic.
So you mean there's a simplicity to it, a simple answer to what are very complex issues?
Yeah, that's one point. What we see with youngsters, that some of them view the simplicity and say, okay, it's simple. This narrative explains everything what it is. Others will say, okay, but the things that the government is saying is too simple, and it must be more than that. It goes two directions. For some, it is this narrative conspiracy narrative provides a certain amount of safeness and certainty. For others, the official narrative is too safe, and they think, okay, the conspiracy might be more true. So it's not one way or the other. It's complex.
You mentioned the issue of trust, and of course the COVID pandemic has posed a lot of challenges to governments in how to handle it, even within Europe. Some governments, some countries went for lockdown, others went for different types of lockdown. So what impact does the trust in governments, or lack thereof, have on the way that people perceive conspiracy narratives?
So we already know, or at least there's lots of research, that there is a relation between distrust and believing in conspiracy theories. So distrust in government, of course, is not good for the conspiracy theories and people starting to believe conspiracy theories. So, and of course, when countries have very different rules and they are not clear about why they have those rules, or they change the rules within a week or within 2 weeks, 2 weeks, of course, people start to distrust, or more start to distrust the government more, which likely will lead to more conspiracy thinking.
So what attempts can be made, both offline but also online, where a lot of these conspiracy narratives thrive, to try to counter them?
I think there is, in the online environment, it's what you see is that, of course, the big social media platforms are working to show and to debunk how the clicking works. So when you start clicking on a conspiracy theory, you might receive other conspiracies and so on, the algorithms. But what you see in education, I think it's important that teachers start to address the conspiracy theories at an early stage and talk with students about the conspiracy theories. And then teachers might have trust from their students. So then in this trustful environment, students might be more open to discuss different perspectives and to really reflect on their own ideas about conspiracy theories. Because I think in the online environment, this is very difficult to let people reflect on their own ideas.
So you think in certain terms it's almost better to highlight them when they're widely spread than to just ignore and dismiss them?
It really depends on the situation in the classroom. For example, when you are going into a discussion in the classroom, and you might be not the expert in conspiracy theories as a teacher, and you do not have that much knowledge. And there is one student, for example, he's doing all the research already for 3 months. He knows everything about the conspiracy. You might lose the discussion from the student, and the other students in your classroom also say, oh, well, this other student, well, he's more right than the teacher, and they might start believing the other one. So you have to do your research as a teacher, because as I said in the movie as well, you might start to reinforce conspiracy thinking if you do not address it in the right way. But what we see in our research with youngsters is that all students are interested in somehow in conspiracies. So they think that it's interesting. But some of them, in the end, think, okay, when I reflect on the conspiracies, I do not trust them because I have all this information. And others think, okay, when I have all this information, I do trust them. And I think it's the teacher that has to counterbalance that they're gonna trust him, but they have to learn to think critically. Okay, how can you evaluate your sources? What do you trust on the internet? Who brings the facts, and so on? So, is it the scientist, or is science misused? So that's very important, I think, for teachers.
There's already been a lot of debate around potential vaccines against COVID-19, and the whole vaccine debate is one that in itself has often attracted a lot of conspiracy theories. What do you think of the potential of these worlds colliding in the coming months?
Well, I'm already planning, and I'm asking my university, we should already work together with educational scientists, with people from the medicine faculty, to make lesson plans how we're going to teach about this vaccine problem, because I think in the Netherlands already 1/4 of the people do not want a vaccine. So this will become the next very controversial issue in society, at least in the Netherlands, but I think in the whole of Europe. It's a very big problem.
Very much in the whole of Europe. Bjorn Vansink, thank you so much for having shared your expertise with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank my guests who joined us today for this special report on COVID and the impact that it's having on violent extremism and terrorism. There have been some incredible insights, and I hope that you have found this a stimulating program. There will be more special reports from the Radicalisation Awareness Network soon. Until we meet again, goodbye for now.